Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners issues and updates on this April 16th, 2024. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Good morning, Commissioners. All Commissioners are present. All of your discussions today will be under the Board of County Commissioners. First item, and we have guests from the City of Happy Valley who will help me present this, is proposed vertical housing development zone within the City of Happy Valley. The City Manager, Jason Tuck, is here, as well as Michael Walter, the Economic and Community Development Director for the City of Happy Valley. If one or both of you would please come to this table right here. So there's a memo in your packet that the city provided. This is a request. The city is going to be conducting a vertical housing development zone. This is an informational update for you, Commissioners. However, if for whatever reason you choose to opt out of this participation, which you have a right to do, you need to decide that today. So today is either you're going to opt out or take no action, in which case it's just an informational
Can you
update.
explain what opt-out means, please?
Opt-out means that
We don't do these
basically-
that often, and so I just want to make sure everybody's clear.
It means you will not participate in the tax abatement program. So the sections of the county of which you have 3 governing districts that this encompasses: the county itself, the library district, the public safety levy, and there's one more, the county library district, and the county 4-H extension service. So as the governing body for those
How much money
districts,
are those 3 districts, over what period of time?
the staff will be discussing that, if
Okay,
I
we'll
may.
have a presentation. Sorry,
Okay.
I jumped the gun.
So welcome, Michael and Jason. There's a PowerPoint that was in your packet. If you'd like to do a quick presentation, please.
Thank you. Go ahead. Please introduce yourselves.
Great. Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. I'm Jason Tuck, City Manager, Happy Valley.
Good morning, Michael Walter, Economic and Community Development Director.
Go ahead.
We'll take a look at these slides. Happy Valley Vertical Housing Development Zone. Here's an overview, 10-year tax abatement with building improvements. And then next slide. This one talks about abatement. It's on buildings, and it talks about the percentage that can be realized if the development should occur. Next slide is, here's where the proposed VHDZ area is, the commercial portion of Eagle Landing. And next slide is, here's an example for Eagle Landing of if this planned development were to realize these benchmarks, then you have the percentage breakdown. And next slide, here's some of the county taxes that we're speaking to, that Mr. Schmidt addressed. And next slide. So here's the kind of gets into the linchpin of this and the final slides of what is realized. So there is, of course, foregone tax revenue, but if the development occurs, the increased tax revenue for all the taxing districts can be realized. And so here we have a breakdown that's also supported in the letter and the report from our consultant team. And then finally, we have questions for the board of anything that we've addressed in this slideshow.
So can you answer the chair's prior question? So the amount of taxes that would be not collected from the county over, I think, a period of 10 years, was that your total amount you put there?
That's in that
Will
last
you please
slide.
state that for the record, sir?
Ooh, if you wouldn't mind pulling up that last slide for me, I sure will. Oh, the next one. $4.5 million
Over 10 years.
for 10 years with the potential to realize 12 million
Over how many years?
10 years.
Did you say 10?
10 true.
I'm having trouble here. Just talk directly into the microphone. Thank you.
10 years, yes.
Thank you. Okay. So that's increased valuations. Okay.
Should the development occur.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I've got a question, too, maybe. One, first of all, because I know we get a wiggly line with TriMet Service District. Is this in TriMet Service District?
Yes.
Okay, so it would be a TOD served by TriMet, okay. The other one is this the only area, just the area you showed geographically is the only area in which you're asking for
Is
this?
being proposed, true.
Okay, all right. I just have a concern about and I don't know the answer to this, what is served by county roads in that area besides Sunnyside? What other roads are county roads that are not yet under the ownership or transferred to the city of Happy Valley? So do you have an idea of that? What roads are besides Sunnyside?
Well, there's Bob Schumacher Road, there's a portion of Monterey, there's portions of Stevens. And so when you look at the greater street system in that area, it's kind of a mishmash of city and county. But ultimately, in this particular area, even though it's a little on the fringe, it is all the Clackamas Regional Center. So Eagle Landing, this portion of Eagle Landing is in the Clackamas Regional Center, and that's in part why it's being explored, the VHDZ, because of its placement within the regional center district boundary. And so to your question, a little bit bigger is the street system, whether they are a mix of city and county roads, are all in the regional center area. I don't know if that helps or not.
Okay. All right, I think that gets my question, and I know, obviously, my colleagues know that that's being served by sewer with Wes, which is another infrastructure provider as well. And I do know that transportation dollars are not property tax dollars. I know there's a difference between those, but I just thought from a service level standpoint, it's really from the general fund, what's affected is law enforcement and things like that, that are general fund funded. If there's a loss of revenue from our standpoint, what would that in turn complement? It would complement our ability to fund public safety in that area. Correct? Or is that through the city contract with the sheriff's office?
Yeah, it would be through the contract with the sheriff's office, so it would be the city foregoing any of the tax abatement, but we'd still be responsible for providing service, so that'd be on us.
Okay. And where does that stop? I mean, where's the line right there between the city limit, right? Can you just roughly tell me, using that drawing of the geographic area? I know the area really well. It's just, if you know the streets, that'd help me.
Well, from Bob Schumacher Road east up that Monterey corridor is all in the city of Happy Valley. And then as soon as you go further south or further north, you're in unincorporated Clackamas County.
Right. So it's kind of an island.
Kind of a thumb of land that's in the city.
Right.
Boundaries.
So to the east, once you get past that, you're in unincorporated up until you get back into the city limits, because it's an island right there. So law enforcement would be a legitimate argument, I guess, for the general area.
There are good portions of unincorporated Clackamas County around Eagle Landing, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, explain to me the extra abatement on land if housing is affordable. What is there going to be planned affordable housing there? And if so, are you talking 60% AMI and below, 30%? I mean,
Well,
what's the-
it's an
what's the
unknown to answer your question, because there is no development of, right now, there is no known development occurring. And so a portion of affordable housing is just an option. The affordable housing is an option that has that resultant percentage, but there is no actual development that's occurring as we speak that has brought forward any kind of affordable housing design.
Okay, so that's just a possibility is what you're saying.
It's just a function of the vertical housing development zone that it can promote.
Okay, so that would be to be determined, pretty much.
Correct.
At this point. And I know that you've done good work with developers, with Good Shepherd Village in Happy Valley that has been, so I don't know if there's any kind of a nexus with something like that in the future?
Well, it's completely up to the affordable housing providers. So if they seek to utilize this project and they seek to utilize the VHDZ should it be approved, then it'll certainly be there as a tool in the toolbox.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Scholl, and then I have a couple more questions.
Yeah, okay, well, good morning. Help me understand this now. The figures you have in here on the taxes abated, 4.5 million, that's over the 30-year period?
10?
10-year,
10?
10-year period. Okay, but based on how much time will it take to build out this project?
Well, one doesn't really know how long the Eagle Landing could take to complete. So the commercial portion of the Eagle Landing area has been being discussed for the greater part of 20 years.
Okay, so after 10 years, then, the abated portion goes away, and the taxation would be back up towards 18 million? You got 12.7 plus 4.5, is that right? Approximately?
It would go back up to base levels.
Yeah,
as
okay,
they are
and then
now.
increase
Yes.
as the years go by?
Yes.
So potentially, the project over a 30-year period could be half a billion dollars in taxation. Yeah, okay, thank you. Good.
Yeah, I don't have the exact
That was just a
amounts, but
rough guesstimate.
yeah,
Thank you.
the vertical housing development zone is geared towards trying to provide an incentive to get something going, to get taxes onto the rolls.
Good.
And vertical housing,
And
mixed use.
much-needed housing. Yeah, thank you.
And we have in the letter, it quickly speaks to some of the other communities that have used vertical housing development zones in Clackamas County.
Well, good luck on it, and I look forward to seeing this built out.
I have some questions. You say this is mixed use, so it's just not housing.
That's true. On the bottom floor is,
Okay, how many jobs will this, how many long-term jobs will this development produce?
well, it's hard to say because the commercial square footage is the unknown users, right? So we don't have that level of information because the development doesn't exist yet.
Well, actually, there's ways to get this through studies and projections, and I'm surprised it's not in this report. In fact, I will read from a letter signed by Michael Walter and Laura Turway. We are hopefully that a VHDZ will, number one, encourage new mixed-use development in designated areas, two, promote density, increase assessed value per acre, support new and existing commercial development by increasing the number of residents and consumers, and create long-term community wealth through larger mixed-use buildings that will be fully taxed after the partial abatement expires. And so there should be a value and a number attached to every one of those statements, and I don't see that in this report. I'm surprised you don't have that, okay? The roads, county roads in Monterey and Stevens, are those roads have the capacity to support an influx of population and commercial use?
Yes,
And are there SDCs paid on this?
true,
Yes?
true.
Okay, how much? And where do they go?
Well, the exact amount of TSDC, transportation SDCs, is based on the residential number of units and the commercial square footage. Don't have those on our fingertips, but
Have you made application to Clackamas County yet
for
for the construction of this?
the developer has not. It's in the city of Happy Valley.
Okay, so are SDCs paid to Happy Valley?
True.
Does
With the
Happy Valley
exception
know?
of sewer and water.
Yeah, except for Wes and
Okay,
Sunrise.
but there should be a road SDC on this.
Correct.
There is.
Okay, are these county roads?
Not immediately adjacent to it. no.
Okay. Okay, my concern is the condition of the roads, and Commissioner Savas was talking about that earlier. SDCs, oftentimes cities collect SDCs. in areas that they give permitting authority to. And then they say, oh, that's a county road. It's up to you, county, to maintain the heavy traffic on the road. So if SDCs are paid to Happy Valley, transportation SDCs, then it should be Happy Valley that maintains the portions of Monterey and Stevens.
That's true, the city does maintain those areas of roadway that are in the city of Happy Valley.
I would like to make that a condition if we're going to go ahead on this. Has the developer secured financing for this project yet?
Not to my knowledge.
So it sounds like we're first up. It sounds like everything is contingent upon the county giving credits to the developer so the developer can go ahead. And I assume that is penciled into what he needs to do or she needs to do going forward.
It's not credits, as in SDC credits. It's the
Well, you want to
foregone tax revenue.
Yeah, okay, then, so where does the foregone tax revenue go?
If it's abated, it then comes back on the records at the end of the VHDZ 10 years.
Okay, and when does it start?
If the city passes the vertical housing development zone and then the development actually were to go forward and utilize the VHDZ, which is, again, totally unknown. It's in essence a tool in the toolbox to encourage the mixed-use development that we're speaking about with the potential for affordable housing. But yet, to your point, the unknowns exist, and we do not know the answer because there isn't we can't put together right now the development application and show it to you because it doesn't exist. The developer hasn't ever gone forward with anything but the master plan approval and design review for one building, but then has not gone forward with construction of any building.
So to me, it sounds like this may happen or may not happen,
True.
okay? Developers right now are struggling because of the high interest rates, the cost of using money going forward. I'm thankful that there's a developer that wants to do this, but I'm also concerned if indeed there's going to be the growth appreciation that's claimed in these. And, you know, we see a lot of these. Everybody wants to come to the county, all these little jurisdictions. This is probably the third or fourth this year. Oh, county, give us money so we can be profitable in our growth, and maybe someday, you know, you're going to pay back the appreciation. But this is a hit to our general fund. And it's the same funds that the cities come to Clackamas County say, we need more over here. But then you're taking away over here. And this is why I have never, ever liked urban renewal. Regardless of which one of my friends are doing it or what the development is, it is a hit to districts out there. Paul, you're up next.
Yeah, so there's nothing technically that would prevent, stop, or the potential for creating an urban renewal district a year from now in the same area, correct?
Correct.
So we could see an abatement, essentially an urban renewal type abatement of sorts, right? That where that tax base is frozen, so we would possibly never realize the 30 years of taxes increase above the frozen amount, plus the first 10 potentially. Is that correct?
It's theoretically possible. Urban Renewal District in this area is not on the council's priority list, so we're not working on it, we're not talking about it, we're not thinking about it.
Right. You know, I'm very familiar with the number of iterations of a development in this particular area, always hoping that something would happen. It's been on the books longer than I've been a commissioner, going all the way back to my past 13 years or 14 years. So I do know of all the possibilities, and to the extent that I also recall the transportation improvements that were needed in that area, which would be borne, I think, by us. And again, this is different money, but I'm just kind of concerned that the intersection improvements and so forth that were talked about, those are going to be borne by us unless there's an agreement for the city of Happy Valley. I know there will be some transportation SDCs to help cover that, but it's not 100% recovery on that. Can you speak to that?
So in the greater master plan approval, the developer is responsible for off-site improvements on unincorporated Clackamas County facilities. And they are vested for that until the year 2027, at which point the TRIP vesting is expired, I guess you call it, without having to redo and reset the clock. And so the one answer is, let's pretend that all of a sudden Eagle Landing commercial development just got fast forwarded and buildings started coming out of the ground and trips were going to occur. Then the development would have to pay for those off-site improvements and/or a proportionate share in a fee in lieu of. And then the whole area is kind of capped out by the trip vesting of Eagle Landing. And so they are directly responsible for both on-site improvements along those roads that front the commercial development, as well as off-site improvements in unincorporated Clackamas County, if that answers your question.
Yeah, and again, my familiarity and the cost are dated, right? And I know that the cost now are, because of inflation, especially in the construction road industry, are far greater than they once were, right? So I'm just concerned about, that to some degree, concerned a little bit about the potential of URD, whether it's now or in the near future. And so that does weigh on me. I had one other concern.
Just to clarify, the developer is on the hook for the inflated costs.
Right. Oh, I understand that.
Yeah.
Understand that. But it is still not 100% recovery, meaning that the county, on a county-owned road, we would still have to chip in something because transportation SDCs are not a 100% recovery on the SDC model.
True, but we're speaking about two different things. I'm talking about them having to do the off-site improvements in conjunction with development. If you're talking about like improvements further up Bob Schumacher Road or something like that, then true.
Right. Well, we're building a courthouse over here. We're responsible for a road improvement on Highway 213. So those are the kinds of things that affect us, just learned experience, that affect us that are not adjacent to it. So, we would, by virtue of this development, not collect the transportation SDC for those remote, away from the development, non-developer responsibility kind of improvements. And so I guess what would incentivize this in the future would be some ownership or takeover of some of the roads, at least in the area, in good faith, serving the city of Happy Valley. That would help. And lastly, I just want to make it perfectly clear on record, public record here, that as I read the packet, I see that it clearly says, especially on page 2, first paragraph, that this is a 10-year abatement. But the balance of the presentation talks about things in a 30-year abatement and what the abatement would be over a 30-year period. So there's some confusion, and we don't have a county packet or a county document that clearly states it's 10 years, not 30. And I can see the 30-year for analysis and return on investment. I think that's why you're showing it. But I am puzzled because it reads both ways. It reads as a 10-year, reads as a 30-year, even though the first paragraph on page 2 says it's a 10-year abatement. Anything you want to add to that?
It's a 10-year abatement.
Okay.
I don't know why the analysis, maybe it was just showing the benefit of advancing the development with this incentive, and then the benefits that over time versus the program is just a 10-year program. That's what we would do.
Yeah. you know, I share some of the concerns about our general fund overall, and the abatements at this particular time with how stressed we are a little bit concerning, and, you know, I understand the math, so just want to put that comment out there.
Commissioner Scholl.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. Whatever you can do to stimulate the construction of residential projects in the county is most appreciated. I support this 10-year abatement at a cost of $4.5 million over 10 years. The county will more than make up for that in the years to come. So, good luck, and my vote is to support your request for the abatement.
Commissioner West.
I appreciate my colleagues' concise and pithy words. Thank you, Commissioner Scholl, Commissioner Sabas, and Chair Smith for your questions. Help me understand this a little bit. I know specifically the Lake Oswego and Wilsonville projects that we did approve could not have been built. And it was specifically in Wilsonville, full disclosure, that project is in my neighborhood. At the Piazza, over decades of it was supposed to be built for high density, and it just wouldn't pencil out without some private-public partnership. It just wouldn't. And I think that some of those costs and expenses for our developers have even escalated, as we all know. Can you, just within the realities of the market and how to get developments like this built, what's the reality that you're seeing in Happy Valley here? Does that play into this to entice quality development? We have limited tools, and this actually might allow us to move forward with a project like this. Am I correct, or do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it certainly is one, adding it to the toolbox is only helpful for the challenging cost and financing machinations that exist as we speak. So the way I think about it is, in the entire Happy Valley and most of the surrounding Clackamas County area, there's only one vertical mixed-use development, which is called Christilla Commons, and it's across from City Hall on 162nd Avenue. And it's got retail on the bottom and apartments above. And what many, many developers speak to is the inability to get financing to do vertical mixed use in the suburbs in particular. And so when we hear this message again and again and again, that the financing is one of the biggest hurdles, and then we have the increased construction costs, inflation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so when the cities, not just the city of Happy Valley, but any city that's proposed a vertical housing development zone, they're basically saying, okay, well, given the constraints of vertical mixed-use development, here's a potential tool. And it is a trade-off, right? There's no bones about it. There's a trade-off in the short term versus the long term. And so to your question, I think definitively the answer is yes, it can help projects pencil that might not otherwise.
Can you, I'm just not able to visualize, in my head, what this area is like. Is it a denser, more mixed-use commercial area? Like, is it more in kind of the center of the city? Like, where kind of is this sitting?
Eagle Landing?
Yeah, is this just up by the New Hope Church? Just up? Okay.
Yeah, the former New Hope.
So I guess my question is
Across.
from New Hope. Okay. It's like economic hub adjacent, in my opinion, a little bit. It's not like on Main Street in that area. It's a little bit off that area. It's been my thought that often this type of development, being as close to services, as close to transportation, as close to like Main Street hub, is kind of the best place to put that. Can you explain to me, is there a possibility that this needs this type of support because it's not right there on like the Main Street area? It's a little bit adjacent to it?
I think, I'll jump in here. I think it's partially the market factors. As
Okay.
You brought it up before. The developer's requesting this of us in order so that they can help their pro forma in order to move the project forward. That's the basis of this. We're not just doing this for fun. The other aspects of the location of this, it's in the Clackamas Regional Center adjacent to 205.
Okay.
There are very large commercial buildings adjacent to it that are offices. There are a significant amount of retail adjacent to it, and then a lot of high-density housing and other housing types right around there. So,
There's also medical.
and a lot of medical.
There's some like apartments and stuff over there, am I right, too?
Tons,
No, I'm
tons.
visualizing this better
Yeah.
exactly where it's at.
Yeah, it's very, very dense area, and so this project
Complement
will
that.
almost serve as a local Main Street
Okay.
for that area.
Okay. I recognize the fact that these are just this, we only have so many tools to help get these off the ground. I see the math here. Yes, it's initially not a great, it does impact our general fund, but the realities are that what they are, and I think over the long run, like Commissioner Scholl stated, that we will get much more back after that property is developed, and property taxes back to our general fund. So I'll support this today. My one last question is this: the one thing that makes me a little bit curious is there going to be is any of the housing going to be available to help people that have some income challenges or a little bit lower income? Because we're giving a subsidy to a developer, great, and we want it developed, but is any of that going to filter down to some of the residents, as we also have a housing crisis right now, and we need more affordable housing? Is any of this going to provide that kind of housing stock, any percentage of it in a meaningful way that will help somebody get housing that they need? So everybody kind of wins on this.
From conversations we've had with the developer, he has a very strong interest in affordable housing and providing housing for people with disabilities. Of course, we don't have the project in front of us ready to go, but all the conversations have led that way. And then this tool will provide an option for affordable housing,
Okay.
which does not exist right now. And we all know that that's the only way, basically, out in the suburbs, we think you're going to build affordable housing is with some sort of subsidy.
Yeah, I'd love to know how that pans out. I guess we'll support this moving forward with the optimism, and that sounds like it's the direction that we're going. We may not have all that information now, but thank you for coming before us today. I appreciate it. Thanks, Jason. Thank you.
I want to clarify something again. Gary, is there an expiration of this, whatever we do or don't do today?
This tax abatement is for 10 years.
Okay.
It ends in 10 years.
So the developer has 10 years to get this project operational.
The
Jason?
way I believe it happens is the vertical housing development zone only gets implemented when the project is under development.
Okay. What's next?
So there is no action for you to take unless you want to opt out, and I'm not hearing that's the case. So otherwise, this was just an informational update for you today.
Okay.
It's going to happen anyway.
Okay.
Good
Thank
luck,
you very
gentlemen.
much.
Leaving?
Thank you, Jason and
Thank
Michael,
you
for
for the
being here
time
today.
this morning.
And-
Have a good
and
rest of the day.
Thank you for your work on a beautiful city, Happy Valley.
All right, moving forward, next is request for consent agenda for the Board of County Commissioners. First, elected officials, the Sheriff's Office, item 1, approval of a goods and services contract with Executive Information Services for jail management software. Contract value is $912,748 for 14 months. Funding is through the Sheriff's Public Safety Levy and the U.S. Department of Justice Federal Forfeiture Funds. No county general funds are involved. Nancy Artman, Finance Manager for the Sheriff's Office, and Captain Lee Eby. Welcome, and go ahead, please.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, Board. We're here. We're asking for approval to be placed on the consent agenda for contract number 9134 with Executive Information Services for jail management system. EIS will provide an integrated jail management system for the Clackamas County Jail, warrants management, protection order subsystems, and civil process application software to support the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. The software replaces a current 30-year-old custom platform, which is at end of its life, and no longer meets the compliance and security requirements in our current age. We require specialized hardware. EIS's jail management system is in use of multiple area jails here in Oregon. It includes Washington and Clark counties and Marion County, and is multiple third-party commercial and state system and is fully CJIS compliant, which is required. Additionally, the software runs on a standard Microsoft platform, making it compatible with the county's existing infrastructure and capable of rapid recovery during a natural disaster or other catastrophic events. This contract is purchased against the Washington County Cooperative contract that they currently have in place. So thank you, and we'll take any questions.
So what exactly will this software do? I understand that it's old, and can you just like give me a nutshell?
Sure. So basically, it manages all the jail and adult and custody information in the system. So basically, all the information we get in the jail about who comes in and their stay, everything we do in the jail, basically, it manages all that data. And so we need that, obviously, for the system, not only for the jail itself, but the criminal justice system in general, since when people are brought in, we then get them to court and other parts of the system itself. So that is what it covers.
And the data entry is manual.
Yes. Well, the
So-
majority of it is.
So
yes.
as wonderful as this software is, somebody might forget to enter something someplace along the lines. I mean, it just happens.
It does happen. Some of it will be, there's some automations that the system does have, which will be necessary, and we're welcoming it. But in general, yes, human beings have to do it.
Hey, Gary, this is budgeted for?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, so, good morning. So, this says that it's funded through the sheriff's operating levy and through the Justice Federal Forfeiture Funds. How much of this comes out of the sheriff operating levy, and was this expenditure planned before the levy was passed? In other words, is this a planned use of those levy dollars?
So to answer that part of the question, we have been actually planning and trying to figure out a good system for our jail for quite some time. As mentioned, the system we have is a 30-year-old system that we've been moving along over the years, and so we've been taking quite multiple years trying to figure out the best system, not only for our jail, but just for the whole criminal justice system in general. And obviously, part of the levy does have for those type of components, including system necessary to run the jail, and so that it has been part of it.
Oh, okay. Good, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing no objections, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, County Administration. Item 1, approval of an amendment to the contract document with WTP America, doing business as WT Partnership, for P3 Technical Advisory. Amendment value is $262,500. Total contract value is $4,860,825 for 4 years and 8 months. Funding is through budgeted county general funds. Nancy Bush, County Operating Officer, go ahead, please.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Yeah, this amendment is for primarily, we had to do a 50% DNC, which is design and construction review, which was not in the original contract, which is the reason for the amendment.
Questions and comments? Seeing no objections, thank you, Nancy.
All right, thank you. Next, Transportation and Development. Item 1, approval of a resolution declaring the public necessity and purpose for acquisition of right-of-way easements and fee property, and authorizing good faith negotiations and condemnation actions for the El Camino Way Stormwater Improvements Project. Total project value is $1,398,000. Funding is through county-allocated ARPA funds. No county general funds are involved. Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Chair Smith, Commissioners, as you're well aware, we've talked about this area before, El Camino Way, basically the project area is near Thiessen Road and experiences frequent flooding. often several times a year. The project will increase the capacity of the storm drainage system to convey the 10-year storm event, reducing the frequency of flooding, and meet the county's stormwater conveyance requirements. In order to construct the improvements, as designed, we needed to secure permanent access to certain properties, rights of way and easements. Essentially, the approval of this resolution of necessity allows our right-of-way staff to move forward with good faith negotiations for the acquisition of the needed properties. This is no way does approval of this resolution authorize condemnation. If condemnation needs to come into play, obviously we would have a discussion with the board. You're familiar with these. We do them with every capital project that we do. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 2, approval of a contract with Steer, Davies, and Gleave for consultant services to develop travel options action plan. Total contract value is $192,995 over 14 months. Funding is through a Metro Regional Travel Options Grant and county road funds. No county general funds are involved.
So essentially, the Department of Transportation and Development was awarded a grant, and this grant is to advance the travel options section of the county's transportation system plan. So if you think about the fact that we are endeavoring over this next year to open up a discussion around a larger transportation system through this transportation system plan known as a TSP, this is one portion of it that's funded through this grant effort. Essentially, this travel options action plan will result in a plan for programming within the county with the goal of providing and making people aware of various travel options throughout the county, urban and rural travel options that are there.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you.
Item 3, approval of a public improvement contract with Colton Construction for the Rugg Road Landslide Milepost 0.70 project. Total contract value is $879,182.66 for 21 months. Funding is through Damascus Road Funds. No county general funds are involved.
In January of 2021, heavy rains and strong winds basically caused a slide on the eastern downhill slope of Rugg Road. This is in basically the northern portion of Damascus. We put up temporary measures there, and essentially those temporary measures were in place to allow us time to design a project internally, which we've done. And essentially, we have completed design of a retaining wall and repairs to the slope. And this is the contract for construction of those improvements. We're estimating it to take about 4 to 5 months and be substantially complete by October of 2024. The project was advertised in accordance with ORS and LCRB rules on January 11, 2024. Bids were publicly opened in February. We received 6 bids on this particular project. And after review of the bid proposals, we found Colton Homes, also known as Colton Construction, was determined to be the best interest of the county to proceed with the contract with this individual, or this company, pardon me. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Item 4, approval of a board order to issue a purchase order for 99 traffic signal controllers through a Portland Bureau of Transportation price agreement with Q Free America. Purchase order value is $230,538. Funding through federal funds, local agencies, and county road funds. No county general funds are involved.
So essentially, we have 175 traffic signals that we work with and through in Clackamas County through the good work of our traffic safety folks. Essentially, we've got about 2/3 of those signals that use a computer software that's running it's outdated technology and essentially is no longer supported by the local vendor. So essentially, this is a request to purchase improved new technology. This project will replace 99 outdated traffic signal controllers with the latest advanced traffic controller systems known as ATCs. We are moving through the purchase under the local contracting review board rule for sole source procurement, pardon me. Essentially why? There's a couple of different reasons within your packet, but one of which is there's only one specific brand and manufacturer and model of the ATC that is ODOT, on the ODOT's approved list. That's number one. Number two, essentially, the purchase of these will fast track the replacement of this outdated software. We have to use the same software as other software that we have, the same ATC software. And the reason we need that is we need all these controllers to kind of talk to one another. So you can't get an outside vendor that's different from the other ones you have because they won't communicate. So essentially, we're going through the sole source procurement process, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, Health, Housing, Human Services. Item 1, approval of an amendment increasing funding of personal services contract with Lines for Life for crisis and support line services. The amendment value is $104,000 for 2.5 months. Total contract value increased to $553,967 for 2 years and 7 months. Funding is through the Oregon Health Plan. No county general funds are involved. Rod Cook, Director of Health, Housing, Human Services. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Under this agreement and in collaboration with the county, the contract will provide crisis and support line intervention and triage services for behavioral health outside of regular business hours, including holidays and weekends. Staff with behavioral health degrees provide risk assessment, suicide intervention, safety planning, crisis intervention, recovery support, and trauma-informed care during after hours on weekends, weekdays, weekends, and holidays.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 2, approval of a revenue grant agreement with Trillium Community Health Plan for the 23-hour Crisis Receiving and Stabilization Center. Agreement value is $179,607 for 9 months. Funding is through the Oregon Health Plan. No county general funds are involved.
In response to the community's needs, we partnered with the Sheriff's Office to create a 23-hour crisis stabilization center and short-term housing in Milwaukee. The city's objective is to redirect people away from jails and emergency departments, minimize the utilization of public safety resources, and offer rehabilitation assistance. This and the next item on the agenda are both for the 23-hour crisis stabilization, and the project has been the subject of several policy sessions, including its inclusion in the Shelter and Housing Projects Plan, detailed overview in April 2023, and approval of the project funding plan in December 2023, allowing for site development and the program planning. Through this agreement, Trillium Community Health Plan provides funding, the $179,607, for the 23-hour Crisis Stabilization Center. This project includes $3.1 million from CARE Oregon, which will be presented next in line.
All right. Commissioner West.
Is this isn't the funding from the legislature thank you, Mary. I'll wait for Mary.
This is for services, service provider. Go ahead, Mary.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair, Commissioner. I'm Mary Rumbach, Behavioral Health Division Director. So, Commissioner West, this is really the CCO's contribution based on their small membership that they actually have here. So this doesn't replace anything. It's really their community benefit that they reached out to us and said, we're aware that you're building this. We want to be part of it. This is how much we can give for technically 2023.
And I guess we talked about this yesterday a little bit, and Mary and Rod, you were in the meeting yesterday afternoon. I'm kind of concerned about understanding the scope of what services would be provided there, because the population it could be so acute, right? It's kind of it can also be a fine line where they need actual professional medical care versus like a place to stabilize. And I don't want to see this not be successful because the client population there gets a little fuzzy. So I'm wondering, how are we going to ensure that the services that they're providing are appropriate for that population, and we're not going outside an appropriate scope of practice?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really important. I mean, our goal, and we, we had a policy session last week, our goal, whenever we did, sorry, they all run together. My apologies. The goal is really to RFP the provider at the same time that we finally get the construction RFP out the door, because we're going to have to do that in partnership with the provider. We may have a provider who says, actually, we should add an element of a medical overlay in the design we hadn't really thought of. So I think you're absolutely right, Commissioner West. because of all the other changes that are happening with House Bill 4002 and deflection, people are starting to say, oh, that's where we can bring these individuals that, law enforcement has had an interaction with. We're going to have to put some boundaries around it, and we're going to have to learn together. And I think there are going to be times that individuals are brought to the stabilization center that weren't appropriate. We're going to get them to the right place, and it's going to be an ongoing community partnership conversation.
We're deflecting, but we don't know where we're deflecting really to. And it sounds like a lot of people will still be deflected to the emergency department at your local hospital potentially. So I'm wondering where that bridge is. So I appreciate that. Thank you for answering my questions.
Gary?
So you'll have a full policy session, Commissioners, in a few weeks on the Stabilization Center, and a reminder to staff, the Deflection Center is not going forward until the board knows exactly how we're funding it. Thank you. All right.
Just another comment on the deflection. Trent Wilson, our lobbyist, sent us some numbers. And it isn't exactly what I thought they were going to be, just saying. So there's not going to be a center. So let's just kind of roll that back. Okay. Commissioner Schrader?
So when you're talking about these stabilization centers here that are with our CCOs are running, they're short-term, are they not? We're not talking about a place to stay to get clean and sober. This is just a crisis management tool. How long are they usually there?
So
then
the
what
design is, one side is that 23-hour model, so an
Right.
individual can't, it's 24/7, but the individual can't stay there longer than 23 hours. That's the way the rule will be written. And then the other side would be shorter-term stabilization, likely, it could be up to 30 days. That part of the program, we're still in development on.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Item 3, approval of a revenue healthcare services contract with CARE Oregon for the 23-hour Crisis Stabilization Center. Contract value is $3,100,000 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Health Plan. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, as stated in the previous agenda item, this agreement is an additional funding component for the same project and is issued by CARE Oregon. It allocates $3.1 million towards establishing the 23-hour Crisis Receiving and Stabilization Center.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 4, approval of an amendment decreasing funding from an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority for the financing of community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention, and problem gambling services. The amendment rescinds $248,588.57 for 18 months. Agreement value is decreased. Total agreement value is decreased to $15,844,233.26 for 18 months. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved.
This agreement is for Behavioral Health's Community Mental Health Program. In its capacity as the local mental health authority, the county must furnish mental health and addiction treatment, recovery, and prevention services, either directly or through contracted community partners. This agreement was approved on March 7th of this year. Oregon Health Authority misallocated funds to the identified services element. We were notified of the error and advised that the amendment number 1 will rescind funds to correct the over allocation. This reduction is about a 23% reduction from the original award.
So we are not getting less funds because they will balance out because they over-allocated whenever you said, and this is just continuation.
Yes.
So there will be no interruption of service or an overall decrease of service.
No, what we had hoped was we would be able to increase, but once they realized that it was a formula error, we're back to actually the same amount that we've received in previous years.
Commissioner West?
So how does that impact you guys in reality and the services you provide? Because we budgeted based on the formula that they utilized, am I right? Or is it going to have any, you see no consternation with it? Okay.
No, because we hadn't done anything with what appeared to be the increase because we were so delayed in the execution of the contract. So they caught the error pretty quickly. They just couldn't they couldn't do the amendment until the contract had been executed by the board.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Thank you. All of these items for request, all these consent agenda items will be on this Thursday's business meeting agenda for your final action. Next item is to discuss the American Medical Response Northwest contract extension for ambulance services. So the actual title of the staff report is Approval of Amendment Number 5 to the Revenue Agreement with American Medical Response Northwest, AMR, for ambulance service. The amendment value is estimated to be $16 million for 1 year. Funding through franchise fee and cost savings from American Medical Response. No county general funds are involved. Commissioners, you've been discussing this quite a bit. This is to make sure this amendment encompasses all that you have asked for. This will then go to this Thursday's business meeting as a board discussion item, not consent, a board discussion item for your final action. So our staff presenters, Rod Cook, Director of Health, Housing, Human Services, Denise Swanson, Deputy Director, Health, Housing, Human Services, and Philip Mason Joyner, Public Health Division Director. Hugh, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Denise and Philip, who have actually been in the actual negotiations with AMR. So we'll just pass that over, and you guys can do your presentation.
Go ahead.
Rod. Good morning, Commissioner Smith, Commissioners. So we're here to present an amendment for a 1-year extension to our contract with American Medical Response Northwest, Inc., AMR, for ambulance services. The current contract expires May 1st, 2024. This amendment extends the contract for 1 year to May 1st, 2025, and addresses current compliance concerns. You will recall that this was discussed during a board policy session earlier this year, and county staff have been in negotiations with AMR since then, as well as working with them on a performance improvement plan. AMR has been experiencing post-pandemic staffing issues, making it difficult to meet the response time requirements that are outlined in their contract. As we are aware, this is not just a local, but a national issue. Due to said staffing issues, they have accumulated liquidated damages totaling $1.02 million as of February 2024, which we'll address in the new amendment extension.
Thank you, Denise. Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. Again, for the record, Philip Mason Joyner, Public Health Division Director. So as Denise mentioned, the fines, and to address those fines, the board's requested and AMR has agreed to the following. AMR has agreed to provide a new service called the Nurse Navigation Program. This is a proven strategy to reduce the use of ambulances, making them more readily available for urgent and emergency medical needs. It reduces costs to the system, to patients, and connects individuals to the most appropriate community or healthcare resource in order to meet their needs. AMR has agreed to provide an additional $200,000 in paramedic scholarships, and AMR is still actively working on a performance improvement plan that's located in Exhibit E of the packet. The board has agreed to waive remaining fines if AMR meets or exceeds all response time requirements set forth in the contract for a period of 3 consecutive months. And any fines that are accumulated during the extension, starting May 1st of this year, AMR would be accountable for. In return, AMR has asked for a one-time increase in patient rates. This is a 4.5% higher than usual amount in the 10-year-old contract that is currently in place to accommodate for inflation. And that is noted under Item 5, Section 12, patient fees of the amendment. And with that, that is the summary and overview of the amendment and 1-year extension. Happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Shaw, were you up first?
It's a light speed differential between me and Ben West. Good morning. On the nurse navigation issue, this extension starts 1 May, but this doesn't tell me when the nurse navigation services begin.
AMR has already begun the development and engaged stakeholders locally to start working on it. In good faith, they are actively working on it before this extension starts May 1st, but it does take 60 to 90 days to be fully operational. So I anticipate no later than July, this will be active in Clackamas County.
Okay.
Commissioner West?
The nursing navigation is really across the country being shown to be a best practice. And I'm really glad that our partner in AMR want to participate in best practices. And I think being able to use a nurse to use their full scope of their practice to be able to make sure that resources are allocated properly and patients and clients go exactly where they need to be to have their needs met to help disperse the burden across the system is essential. And nurses are real good at that. And so I'm excited about this opportunity to expand nursing care in Clackamas County through triaging. And it's a skill set that is really unique to the practice of nursing, and we do it well throughout the hospital systems and medical community. So I'm glad that we're going to do it within our emergency response, partnering with our RNs here in the region. I think that I did just some reflection on this whole process. We have been working on this a lot for a minute, and staff, you guys have been amazing in helping us be creative. We've seen a lot of stagnant or immobility in different governmental entities in the region on how to address call time issues. I was reflecting with the chair the other day, and I said, it's interesting as we still have kind of the same level of care from first-hand responders and ambulance services, but we've increased the demand on those services and put pressures on the system it wasn't prepared for with the fentanyl crisis, with public health and safety issues skyrocketing, with other factors that didn't exist when this contract was initially put forward, and just even the geographical disparities and realities within our own county, as we're very geographically diverse, has just kind of really made this kind of a tough problem to crack. But a couple things. I think this shows some balance in the approach to move forward, so I appreciate that. I don't disagree with anything that you guys have proposed here today. But another thing that's been happening, and I've talked to the chair about this and staff, not really county directed, but myself and some others have been working. We had a bill in the short session working with AMR specifically on how do we create a bridge program that allows corpsmen in the military that have trauma experience to bridge their license quickly to tap into that potential workforce pool. I've talked to Commissioner Schrader about this in the chair, and being creative, and now we're working with contacts within the Navy and trying to get their curriculum, get that curriculum along with their scholarships. I have Randy here at AMR speaking to sailors and helping them navigate how to get into the programming. So there's like an untapped potential of workforce specifically with corpsmen in the military that have a good chunk of the training through the military, but they don't qualify, and it's not as easy through the private sector. So I think Clackamas County has been really trying to be creative, right? And working with OHA, working with AMR, with the county, with the armed services, figuring out how to be best practices to distribute the demand burden using nurse navigation, offering scholarships for jobs that start at high 70,000 and go over six figures once you're a seasoned paramedic, right? These are us trying to solve a problem. We're not hoarding paramedics. We don't have weird requirements like other counties that are just kind of stagnant in addressing the issue. I think Clackamas County's really showed leadership here. And I know that I'm not really asking you a question. I'm more on my soapbox right now, but I'm really proud about how we have really tried to be really creative in problem solving in this approach and being a good partner while also being our accountability to AMR. So good work, and thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of math here, and you've touched on some of that. In preparation for Thursday's discussion, I would like to get some idea, unless you know now, how the performance has been since February. Do we have any idea? If not, we can wait till Thursday, but at least for Thursday, I want to have that discussion. A little bit of clarity, Denise, and by the way, thank you for all your work. My heartburn is not with staff. My heartburn is with just the situation we have. You mentioned that the fines would be waived, just for clarity, we're not talking about based on good performance, the 1.2 will be waived. You just mean future ongoing fines would be waived? Or were you saying that the 1.2 is contingent upon future performance?
So thank you, Commissioner Savas. Good question. To clarify, I think we're at about 860 in fines because we reduced based on the 200,000 given for scholarships. Those fines, which have accumulated during this contract year, would be fined with 3 consecutive months of on-time performance, if you will, in the new contract year. Any fines accumulating past that contract, so starting May 1st, so it may take them till July, let's say, to start the 3-month period, those fines will still accumulate, and they will be responsible for those.
Okay, so what, can you give me just for clarity, what the fees being, not the fines waived, not contingent on future performance is, how much?
I know we have the exact number somewhere. It's around 860 or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm after. But yeah, if you could at least in preparation for Thursday, at least find out how the performance is doing. I knew that there was a proposal, an idea out there in which maybe that reduction would be gradually decreased to 0 based on good performance. I'm just kind of concerned. And then how much do we waive the first round? How much has been waived thus far?
Well, I think, Philip, we had close to 400,000. I know that we waived 225,000 directly, asking them to put that into scholarships as well. But I'm not sure that's the full amount, so I can get that information for you as well.
Right. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
I also want to just address the performance. We do know, we just received more data, so we haven't been able to analyze yet, but we'll bring that back. We do know that since January, we are creeping up in performance. So they really are making a difference. I think that the decision of the board to move some of the previous fines into scholarships has been very positive because we have a lot more folks graduating now, and that's what's being put to work. So it really is about the workforce that's helping us. So we are making progress. We are not there yet, but I can get you the exact numbers.
Yeah. And again, I just want to just express my appreciation for all the work you've done on this. So, my anguish is somewhat with where we are, and it's good to hear that we're making some gains. That's good news. So I feel a bit more at comfort. But I also want to convey that I don't have any heartburn. I want to share my appreciation for those that are serving AMR in their role capacity as emergency responders and all the hard work they're doing and the sacrifices they make, as well as the administration. Being a small business person, majority of my life, I always made sure that I was able to deliver. And I didn't expand my operations if I knew I had a staffing shortage. And because of the Washington County contract, I think what makes this a little bit more painful for me, I think this is the part in which I think, again, we're county commissioners for Clackamas County. Our responsibility is to our Clackamas County constituents. And when people call 911, that they get the emergency response they need, which can be life-saving or not. So that's my concern, that the staffing, again, generated by a national crisis. I know this is not solely a regional or an Oregon problem, but it has been somewhat exacerbated by a new contract with Washington County, which probably stretched their resources thinner than would be otherwise. That's all I have for today.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. Thank you for all your hard work. And I think that it's innovative that we're trying a collaborative model in terms of seeing it as a workforce issue. I'm not sure anybody else across the United States has kind of taken this approach to it. And I think that shows that we want to support our medical folks across the board and our emergency responders. I do know that they cooperate fully with our fire districts as well, if I'm not mistaken. I know that that's actually been something that we've worked on through the years too. So both of those folks are out there doing emergency response as well. I think this is fantastic, and I would like to hope that we might want to mention this to our national associations of counties people about how we help solve, rather than try and find our way out of a workforce problem that wasn't going to work anyway, so.
Thank you. When we offered up the $200,000 in scholarships, that was last fall, correct?
For the first round.
This is the second round.
This is the second round.
How are we doing on graduates from the first round? Where are they in the pipeline?
The pipeline's moving. It started. There are a couple folks who did receive initial scholarships who are, there's 6 folks in training right now. 2 additional folks who were just hired in the past couple of weeks who are starting and doing their orientation. So the pipeline is starting to move.
Good.
Which is great.
Good. I know it takes a while. To Commissioner Savas's point, he mentioned the Washington County contract has really taken away a lot of our paramedics for that, but it's also Multnomah County who has a 2 paramedic model in their ambulances, and hopefully we'll see some movement on them with that. I understand Clark County has the nurse navigation program, and how long has that been in operation?
Oh, gosh. About a year, I would say.
And they're seeing percentage, I'm not saying reduction. Tell me
They've
how
seen
well they're doing.
about a 10 to 12% reduction in call volume, getting folks to not have to have an ambulance show up at their home and be transported to the emergency department if they do not medically need one.
And in turn, that makes more ambulances available, and therefore the response time is not slowed.
Correct.
Okay. I really look forward to that coming online. Commissioner West.
One question and a comment. I know we have a community paramedic that we have funded, and we're really proud of here. And our community paramedic is a great guy and does great work. Is there an ability maybe with the Nurse Navigation Center to, I'm assuming so, not as we triage them to appropriate services. So maybe we do have a county service that can step in and help them. Maybe the community paramedic can step in and begin to do follow-up. So what we would call a frequent flyer in the hospital system, where somebody just shows up in the ED every other day and there's no like they're just kind of spinning and they're not getting any care, are diverted into the appropriate place. Hopefully there's we're going to see systemically just better utilization of opportunities and services for people. My other thing is maybe this is a comment too, is it's my understanding, and maybe you guys can speak to this, that Estacada Fire has really stepped up to partner in a really meaningful way with our first responders out there, and to be more responsive since already out in the rural areas. So they work with AMR, they're working with Clackamas Fire to kind of have a more robust rural district out there. And I've been in conversations with Sarah Poet out there, and she is super excited about the additional resources and responsibility from our rural first-hand responders to just really link up and to kind of create this kind of web of resources to get people access to 911 resources when they call 911, go figure, right? So I want to just give a quick shout out to them as they're trying to partner with all these different entities to figure out to deal with our unique geographic and population differences here in Clackamas. So I don't know, is that true? And then do we see how these resources with nurse navigation will kind of be distributed throughout the county?
Thank you for your comments. Yes, Commissioner West, responding to your first comments around Project Hope, our community paramedic program here at Clackamas County, which is nationally recognized. Very proud of that program. Really focused on individuals with substance use disorder and individuals who are high callers of 911, and going out into community and meeting them where they're at and getting them connected to resources. So I see nurse navigation as another tool. Community paramedicine, nurse navigation, these are all fantastic tools to have in our toolbox.
Yeah.
So another effective strategy to help move us forward and address those concerns. Estacada Fire is leaning in, wanting to do more EMS work and engage, and they're at the table. So that's fantastic to see. County staff have been meeting with them, exploring opportunities. I think there's lots of potential there, and it's great to see them present and at the table.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gary, we're not taking action on this today, except to say we will take it up on Thursday's business meeting.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for coming forward.
Thank you, Commissioners.
You bet. What's next?
Next, Delegation of authority to the county administrator for noise variance appeals under section 6.05.070 of the Clackamas County Code. Stephen Madcourt, County Counsel, will submit a proposal for your consideration. Go ahead, please, Stephen.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Commissioners. The county has a noise control ordinance. It's found at section 6.05 of the county code. And what it does, it regulates noises within unincorporated areas of Clackamas County. Typically regulated by the sheriff's office. And if there is a entity or individual that is going to be hosting an event that they believe will exceed the standards set forth in our noise ordinance, they will ask for a variance. It's a deviation from the code. If that is denied, then the appeal to that goes to the Board of County Commissioners. We have an appeal. The question before you is, do you want to hear it? And if you do, when? Because you have time limits. Typically, it would be 15 days. It would be expiring on Friday. We could likely get it bumped to give you time to hear it with the applicant's consent. I don't anticipate a problem with that. Alternatively, you could delegate that quasi-judicial decision-making authority to the county administrator. And he, in your stead, would hear the appeal within the time period and issue an opinion based on the applications material and the standards in our code itself. It's an unusual situation. You typically do not hear these things. They go to a hearings officer, or you delegate it to a different authority, to the county administrator, to the sheriff, to the road department and the roadmaster and things like that. This is an unusual situation, but it is one that we currently have before you. And if you wanted to hear it, we can tee it up and get it for you probably Friday at the earliest, and it'd be next week most likely. Alternatively, again, give it to Gary and he can handle it for you.
Has this ever happened before?
No, I'm not aware of it. Yeah,
We are not aware of this.
no.
I believe the meeting would have to be noticed. There are adjoining property owners, I'm sure, who have a vested interest in this, and the applicant has a vested interest in it. I don't know how we can do the due diligence on this particular variance request. I think going forward now, that's a different situation. Are we being asked two questions today?
The first question is, do you want to hear it?
Okay.
The second question is, do you want to delegate authority? And there is a third question, do you want me to modify the code to eliminate this from Board of County Commissioner purview entirely? And
Yeah.
that's a question you could put forward.
I do have my druthers on this, but we'll listen to commissioners. Savas, you're up.
Yeah. I just want to just kind of give my perspective over the last dozen or so years of being on this board, that this has, for the most part, been an administrative function throughout, with the exception of this one appeal, which I don't know who the people, I don't know what the application is. This is like a new thing to me, so we haven't had any materials that I'm aware of, the particulars, or have I seen the appeal or anything else like that. I'm aware of it. But I do want to say, in general, my concern has been that if you're going to have an appeal and have a hearing, that the affected property owners or whoever it may be, your neighborhood in general, should be aware of it. And no reflection, again, because I don't know who these folks are or what the issue is, but in past historic, not that long ago, there's been a pattern where people just check the boxes on the application, say, yes, I did notify the neighbors within a certain distance and so on. And I can tell you that one of those that I experienced personally was not the case. They checked the box, but there was no notice whatsoever. So when all that noise started, no one was aware. And had that been appealed, and with a 15-day appeal period, I'm not even sure that if we could actually give fair notice to the people who were never notified in the first place. Mm-hmm. So on your third point or your third ask or option, Mr. Madcourt, do we need to revise this a little bit and work on the code? I think so. I think there's some hiccups here. I know we've done a little bit, but I think that just throwing out an idea, I think the appeal, not this one, but I think the appeal going forward process should be contingent upon proof of notification to the neighboring affected property owners as required by code, not just that they check the box. and other things. I'm just giving you one example, I think. And that's only because of lived experience that I had on a particular issue, which, again, they just checked the box. And maybe that's why there's no one in this room. That's why we don't hear from people saying, oh, I got someone posted a notice on my door that they want to know. We're not hearing it, and I just really wonder if those efforts are really being followed through, and, you know, whether that is through a process in which there is an affidavit or there is copies of it, I don't know, or maybe proof of mail. I don't know how that is to be done, but with regard to that, I think understanding the time constraints, I would probably lean towards having this done administratively right now for this particular one with code amendments in the near future.
Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to see this, at least at this point, an administrative function, because we don't have a process in place yet to my satisfaction about how we check this. And also, let's be honest, any additional processes with this will probably cost, I'm assuming, more dollars, Gary. Is that correct? I think. Not, I mean, if we remove it from an administrative function and then get other staff involved and go through an additional process, that's what I'm wondering.
It'll be staff time if you do a hearing
Yeah.
for at your level, yes, of course.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, Mr. Madcore, my recommendation is that we delegate authority on appeals pursuant to County Code, Chapter 605, to the county administrator, and that you modify the county code to reflect that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner West.
I'm fine with, for this instance specifically, delegating authority to Gary to handle this one with the time constraints and the reality in which we are facing. I am very sympathetic and interested in the ideas that Commissioner Savas has just brought up through his lived experience being here in the county. It sounds like we may have to update some things. I don't think I'm there yet where we permanently, remove the ability for it to come before the Board of County Commissioners. But that's maybe a later conversation as we address that. But for today's question specifically, I'm fine with temporarily delegating that authority, that quasi-judicial authority to the county administrator.
I am as well. And Gary, does this take a motion?
Yes, would you please make a motion to do that?
I'll accept a motion to delegate the authority to the county administrator, the noise variance appeals under section 6.05.070 of the county code.
I move that we delegate the authority to the administrator for this particular appeal and bring back some code amendment discussions regarding the noise ordinance.
I will second that.
Discussion. Seeing none, Tony, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Gary,
Thank
what's
you.
next?
Thank you. Next, review of your board business meeting agenda for this Thursday, April 18th, 2024 at 10 a.m. You'll have a presentation from the County Clerk McMullen on the May 2024 election update. You'll have all the consent agenda items you discussed today. You'll have a board discussion item on the AMR contract extension, and that's your business in the county event starting at 11:30 a.m. So you'll want to keep your business meeting to no longer than an hour if possible.
And I would agree with that, Commissioners. It takes time to travel, and we are the yes, we're the main event. So if you want to eat, maybe we should not be late at our. So I would hope that we would be brief in our comments for tomorrow.
Yes. Thank you. Final item today is Commissioner Communications, Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Schrader, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I just have been visiting. I went to Our Father's Heart the other day, and I went to Love what is it, Love Oregon? It's our other one. They're
Love
kind
One.
of, Love One, they're
Loved One.
combined essentially. And I met the two young folks who are really making things rock and roll for folks who need services. And I also had an opportunity to visit the housing that they're doing for folks at the Economy Inn, and I know that they have it tracked there pretty well, and a food pantry and everything else. So I was really pleased to see that we have a network of providers in this county that are truly doing this work, and I want to thank them for the opportunity to spend time with them yesterday. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. Commissioner West.
Thank you, Chair. Thank God Tax Day has come and gone. Was not my favorite time of the year this year, but we got through it, and I know that everybody's probably relieved that that we are beyond the tax day. Had a really productive meeting with the local Public Safety Coordinating Council, that's LPSC, which is addressing how we're going to put forth an application for this deflection program as a county. We talked about the funding, where the gaps still are, how we can utilize these resources effectively. I agree with the chair's comments that potentially some of the resources given to Clackamas County were not sufficient in actually addressing the issue in a way that needs to be addressed. We're trying to be creative. The sheriff was there, DA Wentworth was there, a couple undersheriffs were there, Rod Cook, with some staff from H3S, Public Affairs, and Judge Lanninger was there, bringing really great insight and experience. So we met for a couple hours. We're going to meet again quickly, probably more frequently, because we have to deal with this issue around how we are going to plan to implement deflection, since it's relatively a novel new concept. I will not opine on my personal opinions about what we are here to deal with, but we're trying to figure out the intent of the legislation, the needs for Clackamas County, how to roll something out that can be as effective with the funding and the constraints that we have. I think there's a future conversation, a broader conversation this board is really going to have to dive into here relatively soon in the next couple months. I know AOC is picking this up to try to help educate and bring the counties on board. It's a little bit different from county to county. The good news is that we kind of get to plan our program and how it is lead intersect with this and looking at what other people are doing. So that was a really interesting and productive work with the other electeds in Clackamas County. I know we have a lot more conversation. Our letter of support with these caveats was discussed in that meeting, so I know this board will discuss that further. So that was a really interesting thing to kind of tackle yesterday in our first meeting and then moving forward. And with that, I will save the rest of my comments because I know we'll have more to say at the business meeting. So Chair, that's kind of a quick update about what's going on in my sphere.
Good. Remember, our comments will be abbreviated on Thursday. So if you want to say something, and you might want to say it now. Shoal, you're up.
Okay, so last Thursday night, I received confirmation that the Bureau of Land Management has agreed to consider the counties that are members of the Association of Oregon and California Counties to be cooperating agencies in the upcoming planning process for the new resource management plan. So we will be able to have a role in preserving harvest levels on BLM managed lands in Clackamas County, and also being mindful of forest management and wildfire mitigation. At 1 o'clock, I get to go inspect the jail, and then tonight at 6 o'clock, the Clackamas County Parks Advisory Board meeting. That's all I have for you today.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, wanted to talk a little bit about, just to make you aware of it, that the road project or the traffic circle project that staff's working on Stafford and Childs area is going to be before the Lake Oswego City Council, I believe, tonight. Our DTD staff are making a presentation. Received some calls over the weekend you know, I remember the common statement on the weekend, sorry to bother you on the weekend, Commissioner. I go, well, it happens all the time, happens all the time, so.
No, they're not.
It's just another day. But I do appreciate it, and I think that they're, just for people to understand, I think the dynamics of what it appears to be, maybe, I don't know. I'll be curious to see what the public comment is tonight in Lake Oswego. But this project came about because I believe at the bequest of Lake Oswego, the city itself, even though it's not in the city, but it's a city, you know, it affects the city, about the traffic accidents, and public safety is a big one. And I do know when I held a forum, public forum at Athey Creek Middle School on Stafford Road, I got people from north of 205 on Stafford with concerns and people south of 205 with concerns on Stafford Road. And it's a danger issue no matter which way, where you live. So all to learn that we need a little bit of easements on some of these properties adjacent to the circle, where the circle will go. And I think that there's a group that's concerned about the environmental impacts. I looked at their newsletter kind of a thing, and the way it portrays it as though doesn't give the details, and it leaves one to believe that maybe we're building a road down the middle of their property, which we're not. We're only taking a sliver of the edge of the property that abuts Stafford Road. And I think that there is a concern about growth in the Stafford area, that maybe building transportation projects accommodates growth. But at the same token, and relative to my comments last week about safety and personal experiences with that, I think safety has to be at the forefront of this, not whether someone believes that putting a traffic circle is going to lead to a development or not. That's not our job when it comes to safety projects, nor was it the intent of Lake Oswego, I don't believe, at the time when they requested us to do this work. So they're taking a little bit of the heat tonight, the Lake Oswego City Council. I just want to alert you to that. And hopefully this does not blow up into something that our staff or ourselves are being subject to any kind of negative politics or whatnot. So I want to understand what the issues are and proceed with that. I don't have much else to say today, so I'll conclude there.
I know. I just wanted to mention, in addition to what Paul said, I'll be there at that meeting tonight, and I've also been made aware of it because I live in Lake Oswego, and they have a code for their parks that is quite prohibitive, and that has been a bit of a problem because it doesn't allow them to oftentimes move forward with the appropriate infrastructure, or it impedes that, I say, makes it more of a challenge. And as you said, Commissioner, this is a significant safety issue for that area, and I know that their council's going to be working on it, so I'll be there tonight. And I'll, are you going to be there too? I'll go with you, yeah. Okay, great. Be there tonight and see what's happening.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you could brief us after you do that, let us know, because I can't attend, I have appointments, but thank you.
No, I'm done.
Regarding our actions on, for the business meeting and the AMR contract, we already have PGA teeing up a potential press release explaining what we're doing, going out, because we'll probably get some questions on that. And I just want to make sure that we are accurately depicted in what we're doing here. And I do believe it's our actions have really helped mitigate the region problem on this. See no further business before this commission. We are adjourned.